Notice the white covering on the kidney, that's the capsule. You can almost peel it off with your probe. You should be able to open the kidney, and this one looks funky. When you open it, you're going to see the outer, lighter cortex on the very outside. The medulla is the inner portion. You'll also hear the term renal pyramid. That's this shape that you see here. You almost have to imagine it. It's not as pretty as it should be. So the medulla and renal pyramids are synonymous. You can use either one. And then remember, all of that urine collects in this space here called the renal pelvis. If you probe with it, you should find a space. Renal pelvis. Now, it collects in the renal pelvis. It leaves the kidney through the ureter. You're going to find a tube. This one's pink, some of them are white, going from the kidney to the bladder. You have 2 ureters emptying into the back of the bladder, and you have 1 urethra, which is right here, 1 urethra leaving the bladder. Okay?
What's the bladder again?
This is the bladder. This is the bladder. So ureter going into the bladder, urethra coming out of the bladder. Okay, now that takes us into the male reproductive system. So let's start with the bottom. Here you have this hairy skin is the scrotum. Inside the scrotum you should find this little bean, and that is the testes. So the scrotum is the hairy skin, the testes are inside of the scrotum. When you remove the testes, you'll see the equivalent of the fallopian tube to the female is the epididymis in the male. And it is right, should look like a little squiggly. That little squiggly right there on top of, I know it's tiny, you might not be able to see it until you see your cat, on top of the testes. It's just like the fallopian tube. So there's the epididymis. There is the actual testicle. And remember, all of this is covered in that tunica. Okay, now, sperm is going to leave the testes, right, and travel up into the body, and it's going to do that through the epididymis and the spermatic cord and vas deferens right here. So I have a vas deferens that takes it from here all the way up to the bladder, and when it's outside of the body, it's covered with spermatic cord. So here it's spermatic cord and vas deferens. Once it enters the body, it loses that covering, the spermatic cord. You no longer need it, and it's just a bare epididymis right here. And the epididymis is going to enter the body, loop over the ureter, and insert into the back of the bladder. Here is the ureter, and there's that epididymis coming into the body, looping over, and then going into the bladder. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's review that one more time.